I think we're good
Same
so
here.
far. Yeah. Comment if there's any issues. We'll wait a minute or so for people to refresh and jump on for our live conversation about mindfulness in times of stress and uncertainty with the one and only Dr. G.
Hi. Thank you for inviting me here.
Of course. All right. Just get a moment here. Let's see. Let me check. We'll just have
Yeah.
that little pause, see if anybody's on.
On my end, it's just the Be Live app kind of
Okay.
view. So just to let
Oh,
you know.
good. All right. It looks good on Facebook here.
Okay.
Have that. Yep. All right. Testing it. So we're good. All right. So we're good. Welcome, everybody who's tuning in. Thank you for taking time out of your day. Hopefully, you're being productive. I like to say that I'm productively unproductive. I feel like
Same
I'm doing a
here.
lot of things and I feel like I'm getting nothing done.
Same here. Same here.
Yeah. So I wanted to welcome everybody for coming, and I would like to introduce you to my dear friend, longtime friend, Gloria Petruzzelli. I'll do the awkward part of introducing you so you don't have to introduce yourself because
Thank
I
you.
know how awkward that can be sometimes. You are a licensed clinical psychologist, a performance psychologist, and a mindfulness teacher. And you live in Sacramento, California, so on the other coast. So
Yeah.
thank you for tuning in at this time. And you live there in Sacramento, California with your husband, Ken, your dog, Frida, and your adorable son, Ari, who's two and a half.
Yep. Yep.
Two and a half.
About
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Almost 3 in December. You have experience working with division NCAA Division I athletes, and you work full time at Sacramento State Athletics. You're still working there right now because
Right.
psychology never stops what you do. And you are, which is even more impressive, you are the first licensed clinical psychologist and sports psychologist to be housed in an athletics department in California State University system, and only one of 30 psychologists, which I just think is crazy.
Oh,
Only, huh?
that's changed.
That's
The
changed. So
Yeah.
there's more.
Yeah, it's blowing up everywhere now. So that's a good thing.
That's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah.
Of only 30 psychologists in the nation to be housed in a D1 athletics program. So that is
That's well over
awesome.
100 now. So
Oh,
yeah.
good. That's
Yeah.
good.
I mean,
Um, and you have been quoted in several magazines, Triathlete Magazine and Runner's World, and you're a 2-time Ironman athlete, and you had a podium finish at Ironman Texas in 20
coached by you all.
in 2015. And you're also an endurance runner. And I don't even know how you have the time, but you have a podcast called The Gritty Genius, which is filled with lots of nuggets of information on how life adversities develop our grit and shape our personal genius. Did I miss anything?
No. Oh my gosh.
Isn't
Yeah.
it
Thank you for
amazing to
doing
hear
that.
accomplishments like that? Right? Yeah.
Definitely
Well,
nice.
I wanted to start off. I think there's a lot of things going on right now, and I wanted to start off and see if you could talk a little bit about the stigma towards mental illnesses. I feel like our society has made a lot of progress, and more celebrities and professional athletes and figures are sharing their personal stories and struggles with mental illnesses. But what about people who still feel ashamed or scared to seek help? What are your thoughts about overcoming the stigma associated with mental illnesses?
Yeah, I think stigma is a really interesting word now because I do think that um, it's kind of like this elusive like cloud. Like there's this stigma when, I think about my role in athletics and how just having me housed and walking the halls and seeing staff ends up um, I think by virtue of experience decreases that, right? And so I think in some ways people that meet me or that work with me, like I think automatically that stigma goes away and we see each other as just people and conversating, right? And so I think it really to end and it starts with us as individuals and being able to be vulnerable. That's not easy in the world of athletics. I think there's still a lot of messaging, like if you're vulnerable or you identify your emotions or you cry, you're weak, right? And so I think that's the biggest thing is like how certain communities, groups, families judge our emotional kind of dispositions,
Hmm.
because we're all emotional human beings. We all have a limbic system, and if we have a
We're
limbic
allowed to have
system in our
emotions.
brains, then we all have emotions, right? And
Hmm.
what keeps us from expressing those are really kind of the messaging and the judgments. And so I think if you could find one person that you feel like you can open up to, I think that starts to decrease the stigma and you get used to feeling comfortable talking about our emotions. But don't keep knocking on the same door if it doesn't open. So if we keep trying to talk to this person, our partners or our family members, and we never get our emotional needs met, we need to stop like going to that person. Maybe that's not their role in our life, because
Hmm.
I think then it reinforces, see, my emotions aren't valid, what I have to say doesn't matter. And this is where I think it takes risk to reach out to somebody you don't know, or reach out to a therapist or a sports psychologist, to see, that's the door that we can knock on that will be open, right? You
Yeah.
just have to find the right fit. So I think when it comes to working with a mental health professional, sports psychologist, you also have to find the right fit, just like finding the right coach, right? I mean, I know athletes come to you after they've tried different coaching styles and people. You do the same thing, you coach, but how you do it is very different. And
Yeah.
so I think that's part of what contributes to the stigma, is really finding a good fit.
Yeah.
I tell the student athletes, there's 500 in the department. I tell them, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. You may not like my approach, and that's okay. But I want to make sure I can connect you with someone that is. And so that's also my role, is knowing that like you don't have to fit. It doesn't have to fit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I can
And so
identify with that as a sports dietitian, and that my approach with nutrition is different than somebody else's. And I do think it's important to find your tribe, find the people that really get you, and don't be afraid to
yeah,
reach out. Yeah.
yeah,
Next question. And I know that I'm not alone in feeling a bit stressed and overwhelmed and anxious and worried and concerned right now. I feel like I have these roller coasters of emotions where
yeah,
one minute I'm happy and the next minute I just don't know what I'm feeling.
yeah,
And I think a lot of it has to do with uncertainty and things that are out of my control right now.
right, right,
I consider myself a very positive and happy and optimistic person. That's just who I am by nature. But I'm also very sensitive to the needs of other people. And this can bring me a lot of anxiety and worry when I know that other people are hurting or other people are struggling. Now, I know that this is not counseling, this is not medical
right.
advice, but what advice can you offer people to help them work through some of these uncomfortable feelings and emotions without judgment?
Right. So I mean, I think what you're experiencing is very typical. And so I think that's the first step, is really acknowledging that your experience is valid and real and pretty typical of what we're all feeling right now. It's just hard to know that because we're so socially disconnected, right? If you were to see somebody and they're like, oh, I'm feeling this way, you'd be like, oh, I am too.
Mhm.
It's hard to do that because our social connection is kind of disrupted. And so I think that's one of the first steps, right? And I think also recognizing that um sitting with these almost two contradicting ideas, right? I'm caring, I'm very happy, I know myself to be this way, but on the other end, this is what's coming out, and I feel uncertain and anxious. And that may be very new for people during this time, to experience that duality and kind of recognizing they're sitting with these two different states that can vacillate. And some people may know that about themselves, right? And have better
Mhm.
tools to deal with it. And then I think the other piece that you're recognizing is, it's in society at large, having this compassion for other people's suffering, is another piece of it, right? So
Mhm.
we're kind of coexisting with all these parts of ourselves without during the day. I think that the other thing is to acknowledge that the compassion piece, there's a term called compassion fatigue that is very real. When you constantly hear stories about people that are suffering and that you care about, and maybe you're sending them good vibes and you're sending them hopeful wishes, but if you're doing that all day, and maybe you're just reading stories on social media, you're hearing stories and you're like, oh, my heart is feeling for you, that could be very draining.
Mhm.
And so compassion fatigue is a real thing right now. And so recognizing that. And so I think just labeling that and giving yourself permission to say, I need to do some self care right now. And so
Yeah.
it's okay to say, I've done all I can. Because, we all talk about um, you can't fill from an empty vessel. You can't fill someone else up. You can't take care of anyone else if you yourself is empty, because then it's not coming from a really good place.
Right.
Right. And so I think recognizing everybody has their limit, everybody has to decide, like, when do I need to do that? Because if I'm feeling more irritable and stressed, that's a signal that, like, I've hit my limit. And so I think just building some awareness of where that line is for each individual.
Yeah.
Because I know that for me, it's changed. Right. So to recognize, like, I met with a team this morning of mental health professionals. It's a smaller subset of our staff, and we meet, and all of us are saying how hard it is to work from home because you're mentally switching modes. One minute I'm here talking the professional. Once I walk out that door, I'm mom, right?
Mhm.
Mom and wife, and then my role switches. And so recognizing that each day that may look different, and what do we need to do to take care of ourselves? Did that answer the question?
Yeah. So kind of what I'm hearing is that, you know, you're not a bad person for still being joyful during
Mhm.
times when other people are suffering. It doesn't make you a bad person. You can still be compassionate for that person. And then also, if you're compassionate and caring and maybe not showing your emotions, it also doesn't mean that you don't care and that you're not happy as well. So we all have our own ways of showing it and dealing with this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, one, if everyone's tuning in, they're doing the right thing,
Yeah.
right? Utilizing an extra resource. So no
Right.
one's a bad person. I just think that we all have these sides that come out of ourselves, that come out when we're not feeling good about ourselves, and we're not,
Hmm.
being mindful of taking care of our emotions and what we need to do.
Yeah.
It's like a baby, right? Like,
Yeah.
kids are a perfect example that you can't tell them, like, hey kid, I'm going to feed you in 5 minutes. They're just going to freak out, and you need to soothe them. And I think as human beings, as adults, we still need soothing. We
Hmm.
still need hugs. We still need to remind ourselves, I'm going to be okay. I know this is temporary. I'll get through this.
Right. Great
So,
advice.
yeah.
Now, for a lot of people, our plans have changed, our routines have changed, roles in life have changed. There's a lot of change going on. And I know that from my experience, especially losing my dad to cancer several years ago, I feel like I'm going through stages of grieving again. And for some people, they may be working less or maybe not at all. Some are trying to, like you said, balancing a full-time job and
Yeah.
being a mom or a teacher at home. And I also know that for my community, training routines and races have changed. So during these times of uncertainty, how should we be approaching life when it just feels so different and so foreign sometimes?
Yeah. That's a big question.
A loaded one.
um, and it's a good question. I don't have the perfect answer for anyone. I think it's good to acknowledge the change and what happens amongst the change, um, and to recognize that amongst change, it's probably our natural human instinct to gravitate to something that we can control, right? And so it may be controlling our environment, it may be controlling people, trying to get our kid to do the same thing and be on a routine. It may be, feeling a loss of control one area. Our impulse may be to try to control our food, try to control our exercise, try to control our body image. We may cope with it and trying to spend or drink extra to feel good or to feel some sense that we can actually do something to manage in this change. So I think it's important. I always go back to the awareness, the mindfulness, right? And to not try to judge what our impulse is, but just to recognize, like, wow, after my day, I always feel like I want to drink, or I always feel like I need to get in there and over exercise, or I feel like I need to start controlling what I eat more. I think, one, recognizing what happens to you when you're feeling that. Where do you gravitate towards? And then also, I think, seeking some support if it gets to be an unhealthy direction. But two, like, it's okay to a degree if that's what we need to do. I'm not saying disordered eating. I'm not saying exercise. But I think recognizing it and then finding support to talk to somebody about it and get that feedback.
Mhm.
Um, like social media, like sometimes, like I don't watch the news, I don't read certain articles, but my husband does, and so I'll be like, Ken, is there anything I need to know about? Because I'm not
Yeah.
going to get it on, because it's going to trigger me. I'm going to spiral, and then I'll get paranoid or anxious, and then it'll be sitting on my mind. And so I trust him to say, hey, is there anything important I need to know?
Right.
That's going to help me navigate this change. We all need at least one or two people that we can trust to help give us feedback of like, hey, you're getting off track.
Right.
Hey, I'm noticing you're not eating today. Are you too stressed out? Hey, you've been working out for 3 hours today. We might, is that like, do you need another way to handle what's going on? Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
Right. Because that's what happens with our emotions. This is part of the stigma. We
Mhm.
feel an emotion and it's uncomfortable. So we want to distract and do something else. And in order not to feel that way,
Right.
right? It could be exercising, food, drugs, shopping, all that. So um, I don't have the perfect perspective. I think what I'm doing right now is just being mindful and keeping things simple. What's important to me? What are my
Mhm.
values? My family, helping other people, my health, and like using my toolbox of spiritual, emotional, and physical things to try to like cope if something gets too overwhelming.
Yeah. I think
Um,
that the big takeaway that I'm hearing is to be more present instead of just, trying to look for different coping mechanisms or just go, go, go and try to be on autopilot is just kind of stop and try to be more present and figure out where you are, where your emotions are, what's most productive for you right now and being okay with that.
Right. And I think what we're doing right now, one of the things is, there's a few people that I trust. Like I trust jumping on a Facebook Live with you any day of the week because I know you and I have a relationship with you. And it helps me help other people. Like I'm offering something out,
Yeah.
right? And so I think if that's one way we can cope with change is what can you do even in your small community to offer something? So Ari's not in daycare, my son, but I messaged them and said, hey, can we bring in some pizzas for the staff next week? So we can't do anything, but we can say, hey, in our little circle of the world,
Yeah.
we're gonna feed you lunch, right? And that's it. It's not doing some miraculous, again, like a podcast changing the world. I mean,
Right.
you've written 3 books. That's just not in me, right? I'm not going to write a book in a day or during the three
Right.
months. But I can do what I can, right? I can
Right.
offer lunch to somebody. I can offer my services or who I am out, like you're doing right now, right? When you like
Yeah.
what you do with your athletes, you're offering what you can give and who you are
Yeah.
to others. And I think that's a good way to navigate change because we're less about me and then we direct our focus
Yeah.
positively forward.
Great. Now, kind of switching tones here, as an athlete myself, and I know you are an athlete and love to exercise, I find a lot of stress relief from training,
Yeah.
and I want to believe that I will be racing again soon this year, and I don't want to give up on my training.
Right.
I realize that it's a privilege to be upset about a canceled race, so my hobby is changing, and it is a privilege to be able to travel and race. These are luxuries that I don't take for granted. But it is some days are harder than others to find that motivation to train. Can you talk a little bit about our how our athlete self identity is separate from who we are as human beings and why this distinction is important during this time? And also for those who are struggling with motivation to train, do we need to maybe redefine a different purpose of working out and staying active during this time?
Yeah. Well, I think there's several parts that come to mind. And I just want to keep it real and say, like, being an endurance athlete, an Ironman athlete, a triathlete, there's a lot of delayed gratification,
Hmm.
right? I mean, you do work for months. And so uh, if this is, we call it's a lifestyle.
Hmm.
So race or not, I think reminding ourselves that it's a lifestyle and we like to have races to see like where we're at and it's a good milestone and definitely having some stretch goals. But I do know as athletes, and I do believe that you work with a lot of dedicated athletes, and those are the folks that are listening today, that there are stretch goals 4, 5, and 6 years or a lifetime. You work with the athletes at Kona is one of their lifetime dreams.
Right.
Lifetime.
Right.
So this time in our life is just a blip.
Yeah.
Life is going to look very different and be changed now, right? Say that person gets to Kona. Like this was part of the journey and part of the path. It wasn't something that went wrong or that was taken away from you. This is a part of the path,
Hmm.
right? So I think recognizing that at the outset, this is part of the athlete's lifestyle. How do we adjust and adapt and build the mental fitness right now? Because I
Yeah.
really believe that once this next season comes, we're going to either have a lot of strong ass mentally. I mean, the margin is going to be crazy. There's
Right.
going to be those that excel that really worked on building this mental edge and realizing, all right, if I had to do the turbo inside for months, a lot of professionals do that.
Right. Bring it on.
Miranda Carfrey, all these athletes, especially if you look at professional triathlete women that had babies, like they adjusted it and some of them have come back miraculous. I mean,
Yeah.
right?
Super strong.
And then you'll see this gap of athletes that struggled, right? That will have to rebuild the foundation. And so, I think recognizing that you're still putting money in the bank now.
Right. Still making investments.
Right. If all you did was foam roll and do some of the flexibility and the plank challenge that you have, that's still money in the bank if
Right.
you're present and intentional. And so I think sometimes it is bringing meaning to your day. What can I do today, given my obligations? Maybe what's my goal during this week? Do every plank a day challenge, right? Up the time or just stay and maintain, right? Maybe looking at the month and then reframing this like off season came early, right? And what am I looking towards if best case scenario we start racing in the fall,
Right.
right? Or next year. Next year isn't that far along.
Right.
I know it feels like forever in a day right now, but it really isn't. I
Yeah.
mean, we're getting into April,
Yeah.
so I guess there's a lot of emotional reactivity
Hmm.
from this athlete thing because we do like instant gratification. That's just society. So I'm asking, I think a lot of folks that you do work with do have that maturity to step back and say, hey, if this is 4 or 5 months, I
Yeah.
mean, you're in the base building phase for that's I know how you coach.
Yeah.
That's building base all over again. So you're only going to come back stronger. I absolutely believe that. And I
Hmm.
think if maybe you need to, if they need to schedule a talk with you so you can instill some of that belief on some of the harder days. And then I love it because I met with the track team yesterday, the sprints group, and one of the ladies showed me her wall. She had all her goals up there
No, I love that.
written on the huge whiteboard
Yeah.
because the NCAA, all the Division I athletes that I work with, done. They
Yeah.
canceled nationals, regionals, their seasons are gone. So everything
Right.
they've been putting in work is it's the same thing, right?
Right.
But she's like, I'm just treating it as if it's a redshirt year. I'm treating it as if I'm injured. What
Right.
do I need to do to keep building and to come back stronger? And so I
Right.
think we're as athletes, this is where our whole community is really in the same boat,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I
And then to reckon, go ahead.
no, go on.
And then just like to that last piece to recognize that um, athlete, yeah, it's just one part of our identity. I mean,
Mhm.
our identities are very intersectional, right? Mother, woman, first generation. I'm Latina. I'm an athlete. I'm a psychologist. I'm a wife, right? So each one of those. But if we strip all of those away, and this is what I did the last podcast about briefly that I talked about, if we strip all of those away, what's left?
Mhm.
Right. And I think we're challenged with that because I think we can strip those away and say, you know what? I'm pretty optimistic. I'm compassionate. I'm dedicated.
That makes
Sport is how I channel that.
right.
Being an RD is how I channel that. Being
Mhm.
a psychologist, a wife, a mother, a fur,
Furry parent.
a furry parent. Like that's how I channel my love for animals, my love and compassion for my community and what I do. It's not who we are,
Mhm.
right? And I think those are the things that are going to help us get through this if we remember who we are.
Yeah.
Today, I may be running low on compassion or tolerance, but because if I'm on with my kid at 6 in the morning till
Yeah.
12, it's like, oh my gosh. But I can switch modes and say, but I can be on here and offer this,
Yeah.
right? We do have to have some flexibility, right?
Yeah. And one thing that you and I were talking about earlier before we did this chat was kind of putting different things in perspective now from that athlete mindset. So now we kind of think about, is that picture on Instagram, was it really worth stressing over?
Right.
Or what about achieving that perfect body image? Is that really
Yeah.
what we want to be striving for right now? So I do think that there are some really good lessons that can be learned right now.
Yeah, I mean, personally, if I see any of those pictures on Instagram, I'm scrolling past. It's like it does nothing for me, and it's like aesthetics. What? No one cares about that. We're talking about health. We're
Right.
talking about training for life.
Right.
I mean, honestly, and I think that's where I every athlete, especially those watching, can say this is really one of those defining moments.
Right.
It's like a moment in a race where you're going to choose your mentality. Am I going to keep going? Because this is really what an athlete is about. It's not about easy. It's about saying, I'm going to stay in it
Yeah.
and I'm going to work through this. And if I got to, work out inside of my garage gym, I've been doing that for 2 years,
Yeah.
ever since my son. So for me, I'm like, I'm just thankful we invested in a garage gym, but it's taken me 2 years to like feel like I can get this fitness back.
Yeah.
But I knew I was always going to get it back.
Yeah.
I didn't know when, but just knew it was coming. And I think that's where we have to have a little bit of faith.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to, I don't know if it's spirituality that people want to say, their faith in God, universe, consciousness, but there is something to believe in. There's something
Mhm.
more. We wouldn't be having this conversation and connecting to offer out to people what we feel important about. So there
Right.
is something more happening.
Yeah.
But that's the athlete, right? That's why they trust you. And that's why I would only trust you, coach, because um, and if you go back, if folks want to go back, drgloriapetrozelli.com and look at my blog post from Ironman, Texas,
Mhm.
not the first one, the second one I was coached by you guys.
Yeah.
It
13,
was the foundation was that I trusted your guys' formula, your coaching.
15.
You
Mhm.
challenged me to get power and to get a bike computer that was legit. Um, and I trusted you all. And so um, I think that's a really important piece of all of this. Are you still there? There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
That's a really important piece. So athletes that are working with you, trust like these challenges, you're going to give them something they need, but also trusting in your faith, trusting that like this is meant to teach us. This is
Mhm.
preparation for something. We will know a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road how this has shaped us,
Yeah.
to remind us of that,
Yeah.
right?
Now, I'm kind of on a different topic now. I think everyone can relate to that. There's a lot of posts encouraging us to stay positive, be grateful, to look at life differently. Sometimes it may feel wrong to smile and laugh and joke at a time like this, but I do think that it is important to spread positivity
Yeah.
in this time and to spread positive messages. I know that I am just laughing hysterically at a lot of the memes and things out there, and I need that because I
Yeah.
love to laugh, I love to smile.
Yeah.
It really helps me out. So what advice would you offer us in that? Should we be looking into our unique qualities and strengths and traits to help us thrive during this difficult time? Because I'm sure we all have them. Maybe
Yeah.
we just haven't explored what those are.
Look, I don't always know what we should be doing, but I do know we're all pretty darn good human beings.
Yeah.
And I think it's just that simple. I think because if it's athletics or we're in certain communities where we see
These are
people achieving a lot, sometimes we feel like we don't measure up. But we do, and it's okay to want to laugh. It's okay to want some comic relief. Um, it's okay to give yourself what you need without judgment, and that's why I love mindfulness, because I'm not going to tell someone what to do with their life, but I will say, hey, that looks unhealthy, or hey, when you do that, you seem to be happier. Why not do
Mhm.
more of that?
Right.
Right? Why? I mean, I think we judge ourselves too hard.
Yeah.
When yes, like I think always knowing what our priorities are and our values, and typically our decisions will always come from those, right?
Yeah.
We just can't see in the future. We don't have a crystal ball to know what's right or wrong all the time, but we
Right.
can just say in this moment, this is the best decision I can do with what I have and what I know.
Hmm.
5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, an hour later, when I watch this, I'm like, man, I should have said something different.
Yeah.
Why did I say that?
Yeah.
I can't go back. I'm just working and doing the best I can right now.
Right.
And so I really do think if we employ that attitude with good reason, because we're all
Hmm.
good people, then we're just doing the best we can. And it
Yeah.
really need to be, if you need some comic relief, that's okay. If someone says that's wrong, say peace out. Like, right? Like, no one gets to decide how you take care of your emotions or what you need in the moment. You get to decide what you need, and it's okay,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Without being like jerks, right? If we're being a jerk, then it's like, wait, I need to give myself a timeout, Let's check ourselves.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. We can't be hugging other people right now, so we can just give ourselves some hugs right now. We need
Right.
it.
Yes. A
Right.
nice warm blanket or one of those weighted blankets, a
Right.
cup of
Right.
tea. I have a few little tools here. Um, I have like these, I brought them back home from my office, but these Power of Thought cards by Louise Hay.
I have them
These are
too.
great. Yes. All right. So it's a little box, some affirmations. You could pick one each day and just let that be the thing of focus. Buddha Doodle cards. I love these. I follow her on Instagram. Oh, I just pulled one card and it just says connect.
Yeah.
See the
I'll pull a
universe.
card too and see what mine says.
Let's see what it says.
So much fun. All right. I'll dig through the pile here. I deserve the best and I accept the best now. I am mentally and emotionally equipped to enjoy a prosperous and loving life. It is my birthright to deserve all good. I claim my good.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And these little tools, we can just pull one card a day. And even if it's just a minute, read the card, reflect on it, have your tea, and then move on with your day. Because then
Right.
you planted a little seed of goodness.
Yep.
And our
Yep.
subconscious mind will take it and run with it. We don't always need to be consciously focused on something in order to have just good stuff happen in our life. So
Yeah.
these little practices, again, it's like putting a little bit of money in the bank, right?
Yeah. So now I think something we can all relate to, this pandemic is leading to an information overload for a lot of people, making it difficult to separate fact from fiction. It leads to, and I am well aware of this in the nutrition space because that's what I deal with a lot. And it leads to a lot of confusion, fear, worry. For myself, kind of like you, I am not watching the news, very little news. I'm not reading posts on social media. I'm only gravitating towards happy posts and animal posts and things that trigger good feelings for me. And it's probably good that we're social distancing right now because we would likely end up in that situation of, hey, I heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who knows someone, right?
Right.
So, we can kind of filter out the information right now. But what's your advice on limiting the news and social media, but recognizing the need that we still need authentic connections?
Yeah. And I think you kind of answered the question that each person's going to know how much is good for them, but definitely setting limits. So on my phone, I put certain apps on the last page. So I have to scroll through a few pages and a few extra steps in order to access that app,
Right.
right? So it doesn't become such an impulse,
Yeah.
right? To open it when we're bored, to open it when, we just we're needing something. Um, and so I do think having a limit, I think after the next couple weeks, that's going to die down. I think people are going to get fatigued from all the it's like panic fatigue, right? Emotional contagion. I think people will eventually it'll die down, but right now I think setting some limits, definitely not before you go to bed. Please, because that becomes the last thing that we're putting in our consciousness, and sometimes that can lead to restless sleep, racing thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Putting our phone at the opposite side of the room if possible.
Yeah.
Trying not to scroll and look at these things before bed. Try not to make it the first thing you look at in the morning. Pull a card, print them off the internet if you need to, but don't let it be the first thing that you look at. Before this call, I didn't go on social media. I'm not going to like distract myself or get risk vulnerability, right? To to something distracting me and taking over my mindset. And so it does become, a practice and discipline and some self-control. I also think that um, if you're going to read articles, read things from no certain sites. So I'm going on the John Hopkins website and just looking at scientifically based articles. That's just for me, what I do, right? So I know I'm like, if I need some information, I'm going here. So I'm going to use an example. There's an article floating around about, oh, coronavirus survives on surfaces. Oh my gosh, it survives on this and this and that, right? And everyone's like, oh my God, if I touch something, am I going to get sick? I
Yeah.
actually read the article and they're like, sure, the disease survives on surfaces, but the amount that survives isn't going to get you sick, right? And so the headline freaks people out in the
Right.
content, but the
We're
actual
touching it
scientific
everywhere.
article doesn't tell people to be alarmed. And I actually found the article on the Hopkins website, right?
Yeah.
And so I think if you're going to go, know the intention and what you're going to click. If you're going to go on Instagram, am I going on there to look at Marnie's page to feel positive?
Yay.
For me, I go to some I'll go to like some astrology pages or quotes pages. So know
Love
why you're
it.
going on there. And if you're like deviating from that, shut it down quick. Right.
Yeah.
So I think this is a big lesson in self-control and how to like
Yes. In
really
many ways.
redirect ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Great
I don't know
advice.
if that was helpful.
Oh, super helpful. You're so helpful. Lastly, last question. Fear, uncertainty, loss, grief, anxiety, all of this can feel so overwhelming and can cause a lot of strong emotion. So I'm pretty much wrapping up everything that we just talked
Yeah.
about and all these
Yeah.
emotions that we're feeling. And as we all know, everyone reacts differently to emotions. Some people can brush them off. I'm a bit more sensitive, and I like to talk about my feelings.
Yeah.
Um, and during these stressful situations, a lot of people may experience trouble sleeping, different eating patterns, difficulty concentrating, and increased use of alcohol and drugs. What are some tips for that you would give people of some healthy coping mechanisms that will help protect our mental, emotional, and physical well-being?
Yeah. So I think first off is if you're feeling like you really need a lot of care and support, I would have people connect with therapists that are doing telemental health,
Yeah.
teletherapy. So that's what I would say first, because, I can't, I guess I keep going back to this vague thing. I can't decide for you unless I really know like, I don't know your limits, right? And so working with someone can help you understand connections between what
Hmm.
you're thinking, what you do, how you feel, and what that happens in our body, right?
Hmm.
And so what we think and what we do affects how we feel and how we behave. And so working with someone to understand those connections, because then you'll know how to address when you feel this impulse and feel stressed. Some people reach for a drink, right? And so recognizing that stress to say, do I really need to drink? What's the purpose? Oh, I
Hmm.
need to de-stress. I need to just relax. What else can you do besides going to a substance? Because then the feedback loop that you're sending yourself is, I can't handle my emotions. I need something outside of me to handle my emotions. Everything we do has a feedback loop to ourself, right? And so, someone not drinking doesn't matter to me. It's like, well, what feedback loop are they telling themselves by not doing that behavior or by doing that behavior?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, because then it essentially it reinforces bad habits or good. Right. And so I think it's one is just awareness. What is your pattern?
Hmm.
Two is identifying the emotion. And what do I need right now? Because I don't think for the most part, anybody needs alcohol.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, unless it's prescribed by a physician that you actually have to drink wine or something. No, and I'm like, in all seriousness,
Truth.
we don't need it, right?
Right.
Food is different. We need it to survive,
Water. We
right?
need it.
We need water to survive, right? And so if people and the hangry is a real thing, right? So when people are upset or irritable or stressed out, am I hungry? Right? Am I tired? Um, Do I need to talk to somebody about my emotions? So checking in, I think that's one of the huge tips and what
Yeah.
mindfulness offers. And unfortunately, mindfulness is an emotional muscle that we need to exercise every day. So I
Right.
think what this time in our life is teaching us is mental fitness. And so I know we talk about mental health, but it really is mental fitness. Am I weak? Not mentally weak, but is my impulse weak that when I feel upset, I want to hurry up and like exercise or drink or spend, right? So I need to
Hmm.
exercise that impulse muscle.
Yeah.
And so I think it's kind of like it's like that. Like when you're doing a fitness test on the bike, 20-minute power test, you're not judging someone. It's like, okay, where are we starting from and where do we need to get you from? Our emotions are the same way. Where are we starting from and where do I want to be? And this is a perfect time to work on that, right?
Yeah.
Our mental and emotional muscles. And so I don't know that I have any tips. I can share what I do. And so throughout my day, so
Yeah.
one thing that like my neighbors might think I'm a little like, what's going on in her garage? Because there are times when I put on, for me, some gospel music or spiritual music. It's mainly like Kurt Franklin or this group called Mary Mary, where it's just positive lyrics and it's upbeat. It's kind of
Hmm.
gospely, and I'm singing out loud, looking in the mirror, dancing around. And you might be like, "Whoa, Gloria is like, is she lost it?" But like, it keeps me happy. It gets my body moving. I love dancing, and it's like, all right, I'm having church right now. I need that extra uplifting, right?
Yeah.
Or I'll just sit there after my workout and sit on the Bosu ball and just do gratitude. Thank you for my body. Thank you for my stomach. Thank you for my digestion. Thank you that I can hear. Thank you I can see. And I know it sounds silly when it's like
Not silly at
but
all.
1 minute of gratitude will really shift you, right?
Hmm.
Because we're not used to doing that. And right
Yeah.
now, social media and media is filling us with fear, 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 panic, worry about this, buy toilet paper, right? What's wrong with people? Why aren't people thinking about their community? So it's all these fear messages.
Right.
So our minds are just practicing looking at fear messages. So
Right.
we need to practice positive message like thank you for my computer, thank you for my cup of coffee, thank you for these cars, thank you for this book, thank you for your smile, thank you for your attention, thank you for your time, right?
Right.
Time is currency right now, and time equates what we love, what we value,
Hmm.
right? And so if we're spending, if we don't value negativity, I know that, but yet we're on the phone 20 minutes scrolling through all these negative messages,
Right. Yeah.
right?
More
You
positive.
spent 20 minutes of your life.
Yeah. And you can't get that back.
I'm very passionate about that. So the gospel music, the gratitude practice, um, these cards, power of thought cards. I love this book, The Art of Being. One little like quick pages, right? It's like a page and a half, and at the
Hmm.
end, a little mindfulness practice, right? So it's not reading a whole book; it's a little passage. This was a gift. This is a great book, Faith in the Valley. Again, one pagers of just a little nugget of wisdom, something that keeps my mindset.
Yeah.
I think I highlighted, let me grab this here, on social media workbooks. So mindful self
Yeah.
compassion workbook. There's the body image workbook. There's an anxiety management workbook. There's a mindfulness based stress reduction workbook. There's so many good workbooks they look similar to this or about this big. Really good practical exercises.
Great time for that.
These are great for right now,
Yeah.
right? You can make that your emotional and mental homework. Just like you assign someone a workout and training peaks, there's like good practices in there. So there's another tool. Um, another tool, some meditation, right?
I feel calmer
So
already.
yeah, like I may do this once, breathe, and then when the sound fades out, again, breathe in, again. So what we're doing is we're focusing the auditory sense. We're focusing on our breath. I'm physically giving myself something to do. And so we're engaging a few things instead of just sitting, right? So I have like a formula. I'm gonna breathe, ding, breathe, hit,
Yeah.
So I think the best meditations engage a few senses, right? That's why yoga is so powerful because it engages your body. So yoga, there's a lot of good at-home practices right now. And
Yeah.
I encourage people. Um, I think that those are some of the tools. Spirituality is huge for me. Um, I I I look at like Buddhist stuff, Christian stuff, like anything, like Abraham Hicks, law of attraction, whatever I feel like is giving me a sense of peace, because I
Yeah.
think that's what it is.
Good
Like,
vibes.
just find a sense of inner peace. And if it's just like I went and walked at the park with my son and he was picking flowers, he has no awareness about what's going on in the world other than picking these flowers.
Yeah.
That's it. Right. And
Right.
reminding ourselves. And then like in the Christian faith, there's, a scripture that says, be like a child, like
Yeah.
just be like a child. And I
Hmm.
think in some ways it's so hard as an adult because we're planning. I should have in the future, in the past, when right now we're breathing. Right now I have a good connection. Right now I have a roof over my head and food in our stomach. And sometimes it's just that simple.
Yeah.
There's nothing else we need to be.
Right.
And no one else, like we're good.
Yeah. We are
Regardless
good.
of what your power test says or what you're running, how you look, I'm sorry, like your abs, your test, how fast you're running doesn't make you a better person. If you
Right.
can't find peace, then none of it really matters, right? Whether you have all the money in the world or all the celebrity in the world, if we're
Yeah.
not at peace. So I think that's probably my roundabout message
Yeah.
is to
Well,
do things,
I don't
focus
know
on
about
the things.
everybody else, but I feel so much better now just talking to you. I think this should be a daily
I
thing.
love you, Marnie.
Yeah.
And everyone's tuning in because of you, not because of me. Because
No, it's all about you. The
yes,
teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. Yeah. Yay, love.
yeah.
Well, I
So
really appreciate your time. And if anybody has any questions, follow-up questions, Gloria and I would be happy to do this again next week as life continues to shift and change.
can we see who signed on? So I see Richard. I don't know if he's still here, but what's up?
Richard signed
Brian's
on,
there. Catherine.
Catherine and Brian, and then it looks like we've had a mix of followers just coming in and out. So these are the ones that have commented.
Yeah. So thank you, because those are like good vibes. I kind of saw him come in. This is that girl with some energy. Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, good energy.
We do. We need
Absolutely.
to see that because it's all
Well,
good.
thank you so much for your time. And where can people follow you?
Dr. Petruzzelli, Gloria Petruzzelli at Facebook, Sports Psych Dr. G on Instagram, Triathlete Dr. G on Twitter, Gritty Genius podcast through SoundCloud. I occasionally get on there, but because of the time it takes to edit and everything, I haven't been on there as frequently. So I'm trying to push out blogs as well.
And your website?
DrGloriaPetruzzelli.com.
Okay.
www.gloriapetruzzelli. And there's a lot of, if you search like motivation or inspiration, the posts will pop up. So even
Yeah.
some old posts are very relevant.
Oh, you have some great posts
So
there. Yeah.
yeah, and it's been a little challenging trying to push out more in the last 2 years.
Oh,
So
give yourself a lot of credit. You do a lot and you help a lot
thank
of
you.
people. Yeah.
Hey, Hansa, is that how you say
Yep.
it? From the Czech Republic. Cool.
Honza from Czech Republic.
Thanks, Richard, Lisa, awesome.
Lisa, Ruthann.
Ruthann. Oh, so much love. Thank you. More than people know, just like the being present and like spending our time here, like that matters a lot to me because you could be doing many other things. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, if anybody, they know how to contact me through you. So if anybody needs any resources or just wants to follow up on anything more specific,
Yeah.
sometimes I can get
And
really
follow Gloria on
hit me
social
up.
media.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. Or if you're having a tough time and you just need a good supportive talk, like hit me up. I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Much love.